Thank you for watching.
I started Tribe Skates, started doing fracture burning. We were laying graphics, doing normal stuff, and fracture burning was kind of introduced to me. So you take a microwave transformer, pull it out, and you hook it up to jumper cables, and run a lead out to 110. There's no real safety measure. There wasn't on that machine. So I ran an extension cord out of my house to an octopus outlet, take said machine, plug into said octopus outlet, and then hit the button. Hit the button, unplug it. Now there's no power going to it. The unit's good. I've been doing it for months, burned hundreds of boards at this point. I've got my chi down. I've got my whole system down, and it's therapeutic because it's fucking dangerous. Like you gotta be locked on. So I'm in super good shape. It's Father's Day. I am burning paddles for an EOD unit. It's about to retire, so they're giveaway paddles. I fracture burn them now, and they do a bunch of cool stuff with them. And a buddy calls me, and he's like, hey, I've got a couple more. Can I drop them off? And I've been out there since 6 a.m. Like, send it. Fast forward, I burned probably 10 boards that morning. And he shows up, and they're not sanded. They've got lacquer all over them. I've still got a bunch more boards I got to do, and you have to sand off every ounce of that lacquer or it won't conduct. It just won't do it. You got to spray electrolyte solution on it, hit it with the voltage. So he is, I'm fracture burning boards. I stop, I take a break. He's plugged into the octopus outlet with a sander, sanding them down. In the confusion, the sander gets unplugged, my machine gets plugged, and the switch gets turned on.
Shit.
So I've got sawhorses set up. I'm sanding down boards with a bristle brush, knocking all the ash off. I'm spraying it down with a hose, so the whole backyard is covered in water. I'm in a tank top and board shorts, no shoes on, doing my thing. I remember it like it was yesterday. We're in front of my bay window, and it's probably from here to there. I mean, it's close. We're standing essentially on the back porch. Both my kids are there. They're watching the iPad or watching cartoons, eating breakfast. It's probably 8 a.m. And the old lady knocks on the window. She gives me one of these, like, it's fucking Father's Day, let's go. Trying to go have a family breakfast and do the whole thing. I'm like, last burn. Last burn. And I was like, all right, man, let's knock out this last one. And I grabbed those leads and I readjusted my hands. And if you're true north, that's where he was. I was about in this fashion. And when I grabbed those leads, it snapped me and spun me towards him, and every muscle in my body contracted. And I can remember my head fighting the urge. It wanted to slam back and touch my own spine. And I remember fighting it as hard as I could. I could remember my teeth heating up. And it felt like there was a copper spool. I could taste copper in the roof of my mouth fucking spinning. We made eye contact. I remember him screaming, fuck, fuck, oh no, 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 fuck. And the contraction got so fucking hard, I ended up taking a step back at some point, and I landed in a puddle of water. But when I did that, I heard a loud pop, boom, and it was my collarbone shattering. And if you listen to Patsy, I leveled out in the air and I shot across the yard, still holding on to these things.
Holy shit.
I remember hitting the ground and skipping and having this thing. It felt like my entire body was being burned alive. It was intense and it was static, but it was static you could feel. Like the static on a TV, like everything went to that, and it was the static sound was inside of your fucking brain. Just, and he unplugged me, and everything went black. And I don't know how long I was out for, I don't remember. But I remember opening my eyes and he was in my face. And I remember exhaling and smoke coming out. I remember looking down at my hands and I had a burn through my palm, had one coming out of my finger. Shot came out of my head, some arc spots out of my thigh, had one come out next to my ass. And I remember laying there and he looked at me and he goes, do you know where you are? I said, on the ground? And he said, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm not okay. I was like, my collarbone's broken and my left shoulder's out of socket for sure. And he kind of rocked me up forward, and I had a big mouth of Copenhagen in, and I bit through my tongue. So you can imagine what that feels like. I just kind of opened my mouth and just let this shit pour out of me. It was just a steady pool of blood. I didn't know how bad it was, but I knew it was bad. My wife's freaking the fuck out. The kids are freaking the fuck out. He's freaking the fuck out. Rightfully so. I told him I do pretty good at keeping my composure in situations like that. And I was like, we're good. I looked at Patsy and I was like, I'm driving myself to the hospital. I'll go get checked out, go eat breakfast. I'm not ruining Father's Day. And that was the stupidest thing that's ever left my mouth. You're going to drive yourself to the hospital now after this? And I remember I stood up. They were trying to find me shoes, trying to find a hat, and trying to find my wallet. I live maybe 2 miles from a level 3 trauma center. And he's going to drive me there. My wife is going to call her mother to come over and watch my kids, and they're going to meet me there. They've already called Cole. They've called everybody in the shop to let everybody know what's happened. I stood up and I said, all right, I'm walking to the truck, and I turned and I got to the gate, and it's probably maybe 40 feet to my truck. And I took a step and everything went. Took another step. And it reminded me, in the moment I thought about it. You remember Kill Bill? You remember the 5-finger death punch?
Yeah.
Take 5 steps, on the 5th one you die? Exactly like that. I got to 4 and I was fucking right here. I was a fucking cyclops. I couldn't see shit. And I was scared to fucking death. I could feel my heart rate slowing down. Like I could feel it. I mean, you think it'd be blowing through my chest. It wasn't. I could feel it. And I didn't feel right. I felt very strange. And I took one more step and everything went jet black. It's fucking totally blind. And I'm just on the side of my house. I can't feel anything. I can't put my arms out because everything is broken. So I'm hoping that someone's going to come save me. And I can't see a fucking thing. Nothing. And I start to breathe. I start to hyperventilate, try to flood myself with oxygen. And I forced it. I opened my eyes as wide as I could, and I started to deep breathe until light started to come back in. And I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was him, and he guided me to the truck. And by the time I got there, my vision had came back, but it wasn't normal vision. It was like superhuman vision. It was the brightest colors I've ever seen in my whole life. It was like I could see, like Superman. I saw everything. I felt everything. I've never been so in tune with my body, ever. I could feel everything. We got in the truck and we drove to the hospital and we hit every pothole on the way. So my collarbone's in like 30 pieces. It's just kind of gravel, just moving around. My scapula's blown out. And every bump we hit, it felt like a shard was going to go into my lung. I didn't know how bad it was at the time, but I had a pretty good fucking idea. And we walked back there, walked in, told him exactly what had happened. We don't know the voltage. I don't know the ampage. I don't know anything except that everything I've ever read is no one survives this shit. So I should have been dead. They brought me back on the table. They stripped me down. They're going through everything. They shoot the x-rays. They see the collarbone shattered. They see the scapula. They see everything else. And this doctor comes back. And he tells me, he's like, hey man, what do you do? And I told him. He's like, here's the issue, is with electrocution injuries, your body starts to produce some kind of enzyme. Like, I'll fuck up the name, so I'm not going to try. But he goes, if that number hits, we'll call it 10. If it hits 10, your whole body's going to turn into essentially like rhabdo. Muscles are going to liquefy, and I have to start chopping shit out of you. I'm a lot bigger then than I was now, or than I am now. And he goes, I got to start cutting out big things, dude. He's like, pecs got to go, lats got to go, glutes, thighs, hamstrings. We got to cut it out of you, because if not, it turns to mush, it turns septic, and you'll fucking die. He's like, so when this thing goes, we got to go. So I'm imagining now, I'm laying in a hospital bed, and this dude's going to walk around the corner with a fucking piece of paper and start cutting pieces off of me.
So it's just your tissue, it's dead tissue that's rotting.
Yeah, essentially like
becomes toxic.
There's so much trauma all the way through, your body produces natural enzyme that basically turns shit septic. And he's like, that's what happens with rhabdo, like muscles liquefy or whatever. And he was concerned about it. And they did an ambulance ride all the way up to the burn unit, put me in there, ran every test they could, all the x-rays, stayed there for a couple days. And that dude came back in and he goes, I don't know what the fuck is going on with you. He's like, everybody on earth produces this enzyme, everybody. You know, if at 10, we've got to start cutting shit out, everybody's set to the 5. He goes, not only are you not at a 5, he goes, I can't find a trace of it in your whole fucking body. He goes, it's a medical fucking mystery. Why you're alive, I don't know. There were a bunch of theories about because I was holding on to both leads, kind of connected to circuit, my muscles just contracted until I blew shit out. And if he wouldn't have unplugged me, I just would have stayed like that and cooked. You know, another second longer. They were talking about, it's kind of like doing a defib on somebody. He's like, we don't know what your heart was doing. If you would have unplugged it, you know, 0.25 seconds pre or post, maybe you would have flatlined and died. We don't know. He's like, because no one survives it, so we can't ever get test data for it. So I remember laying in the hospital. This is right after it happened, and I was supposed to work a jump course the following day. This happened on a Sunday. I'm supposed to work on Monday. And I remember calling the people I was working for at Skydive Suffolk, and I was crying. I was like, I am so sorry. Like, I can't believe I did this to you. It's like, I'm going to be there. I'll be there tomorrow at 07. I was like, I just don't think I'll be able to jump. And that fucking doctor looked over me, and he's like, you ain't going any fucking way. Just like that. Patsy jumped my ass, and I was like, Patsy, like, I'm just going to go down there. I'm in slings. I'm not doing any of this shit. And he's like, you could fucking die. Just like that. Hand the phone over. Patsy talked to her, and basically, like, he's not going to make this trip. And I didn't want to hear that. And then I instantly asked him, like, well, I've got the world record coming up in 4 weeks. And he looked at me and he's like, your days are done, dude. You're not fucking jumping.